What is up, everyone? Today we have a 5-horse Briggs on a little Troy Bilt pony rototiller, and I got this for like 25 bucks, I want to say, because the owner says it has a bad motor, and I didn't really pull on anything. I figured that I have another 5-horsepower Briggs or something equivalent that go on there, no problem, shouldn't be an issue. So I figure we're going to go over, see if it's really a bad motor, and see what happens. Tires are a tad on the low end, or at least this one. I did check the oil, and it's brand new and over full. So that's a little scary, because when someone says it's a bad motor, maybe they ran out of oil, and then they decide maybe I should put some in and give it another try. It's kind of what I'm thinking, but I say we're going to do a few diagnostic chores, and then we'll see if we're going to be replacing or repairing this little rototiller. When I got this, I literally just pulled it up on a ramp from the back of the truck and took off, gave the money and left. So I didn't even pull on it or anything. I checked the oil right before I turned the camera on, just because, well, I wanted to say I did it. And I don't like doing that on camera because that's boring. Oh, the motor turns over. Huh. Seems a little sticky, though. So that could just be a few things, but I'm going to take off the air filter cover, and we're going to see what that looks like. Wasn't even on tight. Neither was that one. Probably could have taken it off with my fingers. Well, first things first. Ooh. That's rough. Real rough. It's like wet too. Okay. The choke is on. Let's turn that off. I think that's over here. Nope. So first problem is the cable is not releasing the choke. We might just take off this whole plate and take a look at that. I have a feeling that this has just been sitting out for a really long time, and I'm pretty sure at the very least if I take the tank off, clean the carb and the tank potentially, let's look at the tank. There's about an inch full of fluid on the bottom. I don't know what it is. It smells like gas. Old gas, but it smells like gas. Very old gas. Okay, yeah. I think we'll go ahead and do that. Let's see what we have. These are either let's put that cap back on. We don't want one of these screws falling down there, even though we'll probably be taking the tank off. It is a newer style air filter, so that's good. This is probably late 90s, early 2000s. I don't know. Not really too familiar with the dates with these. I know how to read them, but I don't know when they stopped making such. I forgot to pay attention, to be honest. There's like silicone, clear silicone on that. While I don't want to say it's useless right there, you really don't need to have that great of a seal right there. It's just for impurities and more than anything else. So I'm thinking maybe some of the silicone got stuck on the throat and making the carburetor. Huh. I thought, which it still can be, okay, maybe a little bit. Okay, well, I thought the throttle up top was going to control a lot of this, but yeah, just a choke, so that's fine. Oh, that was my fault. But it kind of seems what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take off this carb. Now, that's kind of a long task because we don't really have a whole lot of space. So what you end up having to do is take out this screw, that screw. There's two more right there, and another one right there. Excuse me, one more right there, and another one right there. That's going to remove it from the tank. There is a gasket holding it in place, which will probably be stuck and ruined when you take it off. In addition to that, there's a 3/8 right here and down here. Your older style is going to be very difficult to get the one below. Newer ones like this, they actually give you room. Who would guess you need room, you know? But just in case you are needing a closer look at how these linkages work, this one's kind of annoying to figure out sometimes. But this is a pretty simple one. The one that has the throttle in the front as well is a hard one. But I'm going to go ahead and take that off. And then we'll take off the tank with the carb. To take off the tank, it's real simple. Disconnect that. Disconnect the cable and the kill wire. And the whole thing comes off, bracket included. Bracket's actually part of the tank. Here's a little better look. The 3/8 is right there. And we just need to take it out. The top one's really easy. You can just take it out with a hex bit. Some of them you can, some of you do actually need a 3/8, but this one you don't need to. But that one, there's really not a straight shot. So you just have to take like a wrench and take it off the old-fashioned way. Pretty much the only good thing about this little section down here is once you get like 2 or 3 full rotations out of the screw, it's usually pretty easy to take it off. This isn't a place that gets hot, so it's not like it gets really nasty in there. Now the muffler bolts, oof, yeah, you're not going to be able to do that with your fingers at all. And the old one, because they're old, maybe they haven't been taken apart for a while, really difficult. And take off the breather. Breather just comes right out. And we do need a 5/16 right here. After you take off that little plate for the choke lever, it's really not that bad. Now, you need to make sure you don't lose this, because this one's, you can replace anything on this. This one's really hard to find. There we go. We're gonna let that dangle off to the side, and the carb should come off. Probably gonna need a little persuasion. Persuasion point is usually right here. I'm missing a screw? Oh, I am missing a screw. I can't believe you didn't tell me that. Tisk, tisk. Personally, I put the bolts in the air filter container because, well, the air filter's off. And it saves me from having to have yet another piece of equipment on the table. Oh my god, that came off in one piece. Now, here's something interesting. Look how thick this gasket is. This is the gasket that goes in between the intake port and the carb. I mean, this has to be like 2-3 millimeters thick. It's pretty thick. And now I'm going to disconnect the throttle cable, and as well as the kill wire. Take that 3/8. Sometimes it's a 7/16. I don't quite remember, and this whole tank is going to be able to come out. But from what I'm seeing, is I don't see a hole in here. That's important. I mean, while that's repairable, it's not easy. You have to have a welder, or you could do a ish repair and be a little shaky about it. But there's no hole, so that's good. I don't really see a whole lot of rust or corrosion too, so maybe we got lucky, who knows. I have a quick story. So a viewer of mine messaged me on Instagram a while back. Pretty cool guy. But he is in an area that's non-standard. Well, they use metric system, which makes sense because, well, it's the metric system. And mentioned likes to work on old rigs, which is nice. I like working on old rigs too. He mentioned something interesting to me about how not having the great availability of non-metric sizes, like sockets. I never really thought, I always figured we have a very wide range here that I figured is more or less the same place everywhere. You just wouldn't never use them that often unless you're working on American-made stuff. But I guess that's not the case. So, the more you know, I suppose. Now that the tank's off, we're gonna see what's inside of it. Yeah, that's what came out of the tank. It's a nice color. Yeah, it's not good. But the good thing is, the tank, for whatever reason, does have a little rust, but it's a little. And, I mean, I could clean it out even more, but I don't think I'll be able to get it much cleaner, so I'm not going to really worry about it. We'll take a look at it together. But, went through looking, found another gasket. Fits perfect. So now, I can take this one off. Hopefully, it comes off as easy on the carb as it did on the tank. If you don't have one, it's not super needed to replace it. It's just a good idea. I mean, you should, but if you're in a pinch and it's not ripped like this one was, basically if what we have going on here happens to you, you could probably reuse it. You might have a small leak, but you don't know unless you try. But since I do have a couple extra, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to put a new one in. This is very brittle. You want to be careful not to break it. Installing these is not the hardest, but it is kind of annoying, and trying to get them, it's not the easiest. They appear to be made in the weird time frames. One time you order it and it will get to your house in a day or two. Next time you order it, oh no, we're on back order, and it's going to take like a week and a half just to mail it to you. This is the fuel pump. How this works is through the vacuum of the engine, it moves a little pump. This diaphragm was we're about to witness or open to. That pumps fuel from the intake tube into this little pool that we saw earlier, or little section of the tank we saw earlier. And that fills up, and then this is actually the jet that draws the fuel into the engine. So you have constant movement of fuel, and once it gets to a certain level in that tank, or in that section of tank, then it starts to spill over back into the main section. So it's always moving. And if this is not working, then your carb could be as clean as can be, but you're not going to get any movement. It's not really a good place to pry. There's usually like a corner you can pry on for this, but not now. There we go. Just a little violence. Okay. So that is pretty torched. We're obviously going to get a new one, but it's to be expected. That's spring as well. Okay. And after that, that's pretty much it, except for there's a couple variations of these. There's this type, which is a fixed jet. You take it out. There's another one that's an adjustable jet. You'll be taking out a few pieces. If yours is the adjustable jet, it's actually going to be pretty much where this Welch plug is. And don't forget the brass piece that's inside. You'll have an adjustment screw and then like a nut that the adjustment screw kind of turns into. And once you take those two pieces out, there's a brass piece as well that a simple flathead will be able to go in there and take it out. Just make sure it's clean. But this is a fixed jet, so that's a jet we're going to have to clean. And I'm going to go through this with the ultrasonic cleaner if you do not have one, to make sure that jet is clean, make sure the rest of it is clean, make sure these ports are also clean, and it is very important to make sure that you get all of this out too, because you don't want any of that there, at least the majority of it. Other than that, this is a pretty simple little carb. Majority of its issues is just that little diaphragm. So it's a nice little setup. Probably not the most efficient, but it works. All done out of the cleaner. So looks pretty good. I didn't get all the crap out how I wanted to, but I don't want to mar the surface either, so I'm not gonna be too worried about it. So you can either buy a full kit that will come with these gaskets. It'll probably come with 3 or 4, maybe even more. Oops. Or you could just buy a kit. If you have other machines, probably your other machines are going to take the other gaskets, and you can just buy this diaphragm. Or if you don't want to take it off, technically you could just take off the diaphragm, to remove the muffler, and blow through these 2 ports. And a lot of the times, in fact, I'm pretty sure this is the machine that would have been perfect for that. That's all you need to do. This wasn't all that dirty. The tank was dirty, but the machine itself really wasn't all that bad. Excuse me, the carb. Now, off camera, I did clean out the tank a little bit, but not in the way you're thinking. It's the little fuel reservoir that the carb pumps into. It had some gooeys in there, and I don't want gooeys in there, so I took a Dremel tool, and then from that point you can buy like little kits with this fine wired brush. Put the Dremel in there with that little brush, it's probably the size of a nickel, and clean it out. Actually turned out really well. Hopefully you can see that, but looks pretty nice. Before, it's pretty nasty. That was probably the worst part of the whole tank. Sorry, my microphone is just really bugging me right now. Okay. There we go. It is important that you put that little sleeve over the spring, otherwise the spring will damage your diaphragm, and that's never good. I would just put this in there. There's a little jetting in there. Clean it out, blew it out. Everything's fine. It just goes back. This is not one that has like a screw loose or anything, where the more you tighten it, the less fuel. No, it just goes in all the way. And we're pretty much done. I'm just going to put it back on the tank and move forward. Here's the thing though about the tank. I tried to use the throttle, and it's real rough. Real rough. And right here, this controls the throttle. The other end is connected to the cable in there, and this was not moving. It was pretty much seized. And after I took this off, I did try to move the cable, and the cable moves fine. I mean, it's a steel cable, so it's not like the slickest thing in the world, but it moves fine. But this was our culprit. So I cleaned it out a little bit, put a little bit of oil in there, probably wipe off the excess, and got it to the point where it's super smooth. That's important. Otherwise, we'll have the same problem that we just had. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this back on, and then I told you to show you the tank. See how there is a little bit of junk in there, but the majority of the tank isn't all that bad. I'm not going to worry about it. It's pretty decent. It's a lot better than some of the tanks I've seen, and that's not going to really matter. This actually doesn't pick up from the bottom of the tank. It has like a half an inch or so of clearance, so, you know, a little bit of goo there, it's not going to be a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on. We'll go ahead and test this out and see if that was our problem, or if we do have a bad motor and I just spent all this time making myself a spare tank with carb. Here's a random tip of the day. Have you ever seen this on a 5-horse Briggs? It's on the top, very close to the spark plug. This is a remnant from a very old time when there wasn't usually a rubber boot on the plug wire. It's actually just a metal clip. When you need to store this away, or you're working on it for maintenance reasons, you just connect it right there, it holds it out of place, and you don't have to worry about it. So, a little helpful hint, they also have this in the vertical shaft variant, so if you ever see that, that's the reason why. It's on, carb is ready. I put about maybe 2 inches from the bottom of full fuel in the tank, and that should be more than enough for it to draw fuel and run for the time period that we need to. Everything looks like it should be ready to go, so I think we'll go ahead and give it a couple pulls, see what happens. Now, this is not a machine that's going to start the first pull when you do something like this. It might start the first pull if you've been using it for a while, but that's it. If it sits for quite a while, that little reservoir dries up and you have to pump fuel in there. That's just what happens. So, let's put it on choke. Make sure it's not off. There's a start setting, so I'll just put it there. Okay, I'm going to cheat a little bit by taking the plug out and that plug wasn't even tight. Actually, I think that was my fault. I think I didn't put it on very tight. When you do this, you want to make sure you spray on this side. If you spray the other side, all you'll be doing is spraying the valves. And if one of them's open, primarily the exhaust, all you're going to be doing is shooting it into the muffler. Don't do that. It's worthless there. Turn it off, choke. Oh, maybe it is a dead motor. I definitely don't think we have a compression problem. Maybe a spark problem? I don't know. Let's take a look. Before I went through the whole process of removing the cover and checking everything, I actually just took the plug out, and first off, it's the wrong plug. And this is a BMR4A. This is more for smaller equipment, primarily, and the gap could be a little wide. It could be about right. So I just put a good used Denso plug. It's also very, very similar to RJ1911, or excuse me, RJ19LM. There we go. And there was spark. So we now have spark. I don't think we have any fluid left in there, so let's go ahead and do that. But before, there was no spark. Literally the one time that the spark plug is the reason why you don't have spark. It's rare, but it does happen. Now I think we should be ready. It has spark. It's in start. Let's go ahead and give it a pull. Still, maybe give it a little bit more gas, a little more throttle. I don't want to stand in front of it. I mean, it should be in neutral, but I've never actually seen it in neutral. The wheels are free spinning, so that's a pretty good sign, but you never know. And back on choke. Let me do a little evaluation here. Okay, I think I'm going to try this again. A little extra. Put the plug in. Let's try it again. Oh. Well, that's better. Turn on choke, see if it can do anything. There should be enough fuel in here. Yeah, it's like right here. It's a day or so later. I decided to kind of give myself a little bit of time to think about it. And my deduction was that I'm going to blow through the ports one last time with my air compressor. Took nothing off except for the cover for the air filter to give myself a little more room. And in the front, I just blew through that passageway that I showed earlier, the fixed jet. And I didn't get a whole lot of fuel, but I did get a little bit. So I think perhaps the fuel pump was just a little cold. Don't know. But I blew through there, and let's give it a go. Now, I did put a little bit of carb cleaner down to throw to the carb before I put the cover back on. So it should start, hopefully. Let's make sure we're on off. I did make sure that was not happening, and it wasn't. Well, there it goes. Tines work. The transmission appears to be working, and more importantly, the carb is working. So we should be pretty much done. Everything seems to be working. I'm going to, right now, I know I'm wearing shorts and a shirt, but I'm weird. It's about 21 degrees last night, and a lot of the ground is frozen except for the grass, at least for the first couple of inches it is. And I don't really have a whole lot of till. So I'm going to give this back to the owner, and he had no issue with it. Well, no concern that it wasn't going to have transmission issues, or does have transmission issues. So there is, bring it back. If not, it did strike the concrete a little bit and kick up a little. That's usually a pretty good sign when you lift on it. It's not a whole lot of play in there. If there was, and you can move it with just your hands, that's bad. So I'm fairly confident it's okay. I'll leave you at that. Follow me on Instagram at smallengine101. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment below. And see you on the next video. You have a good rest of your day.